All right, we are back here. It is in-game live college football game day. Our thanks to our first and only two, at least as things stand right now, college football guests, Colby Dant as well as Jeff Dawson. We have Doug Kezirian and Michael Fiddle on the way for some NFL talk. I'm sure both will dabble in college as well. It is a big day, of course. Championship Saturday here. And Oregon has scored again. For some reason, Clemson and SMU have not delivered at the exact same time. Maybe because they're at a quarter break. I don't know.
Yeah.
But 21-7, Clemson is up in that one. But with the Ducks touchdown, Brady, it is now 21-10. Oregon is leading. Dylan Gabriel's playing awesome. Now laying 10.5, and that game is sitting a couple minutes into quarter number 2.
You know what's pretty interesting, Adam? We saw it on Friday night where Ashton Jeanty, really went nuts like he seems to do every game for the Broncos of Boise State in their win over UNLV, winning the Mountain West Conference Championship game. And we saw people see that game on national TV. Some people may have never seen Jeanty all year long, and they saw what he was doing. And we saw his Heisman odds to win the Heisman plummet. They were pounding Ashton Jeanty. I wonder if the phenomenon is the same with Dylan Gabriel and what he is doing tonight in the Big Ten championship against Penn State. Travis Hunter was as high as like minus 10,000 to win the Heisman after his game against Oklahoma State. And then it was all the way down to, I saw like minus 1,200 at DraftKings with the number on Jeanty at about like 5-1. Now, reality has kind of set in a little bit today, and I think Jeanty's back to around 10-1, and Hunter was back to like minus 2,500 or something like that. But, people see these guys on national TV in these big spotlight games, and they're running to the window, and I wonder if that is holding true with Gabriel tonight for the Ducks.
See, we should talk to Fiddle when he comes on later because he is a guy that does not, let me fix this. He's a guy that does not mind laying the juice at all. Like, he would invest in Travis Hunter at minus 1,700 or whatever the number's seeing, or 1,200.
It was a bargain for a minute, right?
Yeah, it's a compared to minus 10,000, look at the value.
Yeah. I thought the same thing. And I actually figured maybe that's why the number has gone back up to 2,500 or whatever it is. I haven't looked I looked at it earlier this morning. But yeah, I think there were some bettors out there who absolutely thought minus 1,200, minus 1,500 was value for sure.
Yeah, it is an interesting conversation for sure. So Clemson has we almost got Clemson points. That we'll count the 5-minute rule, but didn't end up happening. Missed field goal, and so score remains the same in that one. Some games that did go final earlier today. FBS Brady in these big contests, of course. In the MAC championship earlier, it wasn't even close. I made the mistake of a small investment. Wasn't a big deal. I will still sleep tonight. Being on Miami of Ohio, and just never, it didn't even show up for the game. Lost 38-3 out at Ford Field in Detroit to Ohio. So Ohio beats Miami of Ohio. Arizona State, again, I was on the wrong side of this one. I was on Iowa State, and Arizona State.
You weren't alone, Adam. There was a lot of steam to the Iowa State side.
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably realized that Arizona State was a favorite. And then in the last, I want to say 36 hours, they absolutely flooded the Cyclone side here rather. And they closed as high as 1.5 or 2-point favorites in this game. But boy, I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't have any action on the game, and I'm not rooting against you for sure. But, I'm an old Pac-12, Pac-10 diehard fan growing up on the West Coast, and I really enjoyed Arizona State laying it to them. I mean, when were they all of a sudden in the Big 12 champion? They came out of nowhere. There were so many teams in that conference that were eligible to make that final game all the way up until the final weekend. And then all of a sudden we get Iowa State and Arizona State. It was pretty wild. I mean, Colorado, Baylor, Kansas State. There were so many teams that could have gotten to that game. And I never really considered Arizona State was a serious contender. But boy, they look pretty serious right now, don't they?
45-19 in a game that honestly didn't feel and really wasn't even that close. It's sort of a garbage time 9 points in the fourth quarter out of Iowa State. That thing was very lopsided for a long time. It was 45-10, obviously, before started to get some Cyclones points late. And of course, the one that we were waiting on before we came on that was exhilarating. And again, I was on the wrong side of this one too. I was on Texas -2.5. It was a -2.5 that covered, but it was the other side. It was Georgia in overtime, and I was on the under, so at least, feather in my cap for that one. But 22-19 in the SEC championship, the Bulldogs prevail, 11-2. Texas drops to 11-2 with that loss. There were a lot of things in this game that were interesting, from Carson Beck leaving the game, just before the half. He didn't return until he finally did at the very end, only because the backup got knocked out. Didn't throw a pass, just handed it off for the winning play there in the extra time. And, ETN was awesome, had the winning touchdown, scored a pair of rushing scores in this one. One of the key stories, obviously, is, that kicker, Auburn, for Texas, missing multiple field goals in this game. Now, he stepped up when he had to. It's just, if he wouldn't have had to if he had hit him earlier in the game, right? Missed 2 field goals during the game and then did bury one to tie the game at 16 late in regulation, about 30 seconds left to send it to overtime. So credit to him there. And then, he kicked a field goal at the start of overtime to put Texas ahead. And then the defense just, couldn't hold it. Georgia ended up winning the game. So again, back and forth, game that lived up to the hype, tons of fun, short number for a reason. It was just the other side won, as opposed to the favorite. But what'd you make of this one, especially for what it means going forward as we get ready to see both of these teams in that field of 12?
I think it was very interesting the way that game played out, Adam. I liked the Texas side as well. I put together just a little funny money parlay for the show tonight, and the first leg of that parlay was Texas -2.5. I was right there with you on that one. Obviously, that parlay is now dead. I thought we were going to get there when we got it to overtime. First of all, I thought they might score a touchdown before we even got to overtime, and then when we got to overtime, I thought we still might get the W there. But I was kind of surprised that Georgia looked a lot better than I thought they would. And I think Texas looked a little vulnerable, more vulnerable than I thought they would. I was telling you before we came on tonight, I was at a really special party earlier this week on Thursday night. A dear friend of mine who's been an absolute pillar in the industry for close to 40 years, Jay Cornegay, the former vice president of the race and sports book at a legendary Superbook here in town, the Westgate Superbook. Jay got it all started at the Imperial Palace, and he announced his retirement a couple weeks ago, and he had a retirement party. And I mean, the people in that room that showed up for this gathering, just absolutely legendary sports bettors and mostly odds makers, because that's what Jay was. And of course, I'm picking their brain on college football. And most of them, everybody felt that there's more parity in the league, which I think we all know. But I think most of them probably agreed that they had power rated Texas as probably the best team. Not so much Oregon, not so much Penn State, Georgia, Ohio State, what have you, but Texas they felt was maybe the best team, and they didn't look like it today.
A missed field goal try for SMU as well. So Clemson missed a field goal. That was answered by SMU missing a field goal. Score remains the same. It is 21-7. Clemson getting the ball back here with 11 and a half minutes to go in the opening half. Oregon with the ball in its own territory, already up 11, looking to start a drive here. Similar amount of time remaining in the opening half. And Brady's thundering herd, Marshall, is still up by 14 points against Louisiana.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm Brady. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Back with Brady, in-game live college football game day. Again, Doug Kezirian hopping on with us in about 20 minutes. We'll get into some NFL with him. We have not even picked at that itch just yet. I am looking to scratch it for sure. We got some big NFL games on the way tomorrow, some very important ones as we are in Week 14 and playoff implications, teams that are desperate for playoff seeds. There's so much on the line that we will explore as we go on. But again, the three college football games that are happening right now, which Brady, just in and of itself, feels it's such a funny thing to say. Like normally we're on these nights, and I mean, there are like dozens of games that are either wrapping up, in progress, starting later. We are down to 3. This is what happens when you get into December, and I mean, hell, next week, it's Army, Navy, that's it. And it'll happen before I think we even come on. So it's a wild time of the year with the college football playoff right around the corner as well. But again, Marshall up at the break, 17-3 at Louisiana. That one is actually in Lafayette. And then you have Clemson, SMU, 21-7. The Tigers are leading and are still in their own territory, but it is 1st and 10, about 11 minutes to go, second quarter. Penn State back, with the ball, down 11 against Oregon and into Oregon territory, but it's 4th and 7 from the 34. So I would presume a long field goal try is on the way to potentially make this a one-score game, which is why the line is now sitting at 9.5. Oregon is laying the number. About 10 minutes to go, first half.
Yeah, Adam, and they're playing in Lucas Oil Stadium where the Indianapolis Colts play. So, yeah, you would think a field goal try
no weather
is
concerns.
upcoming here. Right, no weather concerns, indoor, in a dome, should be able to put a good foot on that football and possibly make this a 21-13 game. You know, you talked about it, and I thought you were going to go this direction. Every Saturday when we do this show, we've got college football games that are yet to kick off. We've got college football games in progress. We're going over, the 30 different games that happened earlier in the day. We've only got 3 in front of us right now. Nothing coming up later in the evening or anything, but I'm telling you, I am completely engaged. All 3 of these have been really entertaining. And now, obviously, Marshall and Louisiana went to the half, so nothing going on there. But it feels like we finally hit a little bit of a lull in the scoring between both SMU and Clemson and Penn State and Oregon. Penn State, I'm still showing, second and 10. I don't know what's going on here. This looks like an error in what I'm showing right now, but maybe they went for it or something, Adam.
They must have, because now I'm seeing Penn State at the 11.
Yeah, and it's showing their own 11. That's not right. I'm assuming maybe it's the Oregon 11. The in-game number is currently locked up, so maybe they went for it on 4th and 7. And I guess why wouldn't you at this point? And we saw that even earlier today, Adam. There's certainly more gamble in these head coaches when you have everything on the line.
Yeah, Penn State. I'm gonna go back through the game cast, because like you, I'm seeing Penn State with possession at its own 11, which,
oh my
compared
gosh.
to
Well, now I show Oregon. I show Oregon 1st and goal at the Penn State 1. I'm not sure how this all transpired. And Oregon just scored touchdown. So much for that lull. So much for that lull. Where the scoring has happened again. 27 to 10. Extra point pending for the Ducks is what I'm showing. I don't know how that all happened.
Okay,
maybe a blocked field goal that they recovered.
Here's the deal. I'm gonna. So Oregon had the ball with about 11:40. Let's call it 11:45 to go in the opening half, and then it was incomplete pass, 3-yard loss, 6-yard gain, punt out to the Oregon 34. So I think when we were seeing. We were seeing that it was Penn State ball at the Oregon 34. In reality, it wasn't. That was the punt from the 34 going the other way. And so Penn State got the ball at its own 11, incomplete pass from Aller, and then he was intercepted. It was returned 24 yards back to the 1 by Manning, and then Jordan James ran it in for a touchdown. Extra point by Sappington, and again, 28 to 10, as you said. So the Ducks firmly, long way to go, but right now with 10 minutes to go in the opening half, firmly in control of this one, up 18. That now we have
right back where we started, right? We were talking about a little bit of a lull, but here we are again.
Yeah.
Here we are again. Oregon favored now by 16.5 in the live market. Your total's right back to where it was just a minute ago, 73.5 now. This is like 24 points different from where this total opened. Pretty incredible. And yeah, I mean, like I say, that lull was short-lived. Clemson and SMU, a little bit more of a lull going on here. I'm showing the Mustangs at their own 8-yard line, and this total has dipped. It looked like 75, 73-ish. What was the apex there? Because now that in-game total's back to 65.5.
Correct. Yeah, it's 73.5 in the Penn State-Oregon game. Oregon, by the way, now, not that anyone's going to lay this number, I'm just pointing this out compared to where we were what felt like a few minutes ago. I mean, there was a time all of about, maybe I'm exaggerating here, but 20 minutes ago or something? You could have invested in Oregon on the money line at plus or at minus 260, something like that. It's now minus 1,800.
I tried to get you to buy in. I tried to get you to buy in at minus 480.
You did. And you know what?
Yeah.
That would be a bargain right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it a good number, but it would be a bargain at this moment. So
it's down to minus 1,400 if you want to get back involved here.
I do not that number. If anything, honestly, I'll be curious to see what Penn State does on this drive. If this is another sort of haphazard, lackadaisical drive, it makes you wonder. Like, do you lay the 17.5 with Oregon up by 18 right now? Again, there's an eternity left in this game. I'm not saying I expect Penn State to come back and win, but in terms of whether or not it's decided, inside of 3 touchdowns, but something to consider.
I think I'd lay it. It's 3rd and 7 right now from their own 28-yard line for the Nittany Lions. I don't know if they didn't convert. Well, now the line's back. Yeah, now it's 18.5. We missed it. We missed the 17.5. Gosh darn it. I think I'd probably
get an
alt
line, Brady. Just grab the alt line. We'll be back. More on the way.
he also said that the Bears head coaching opening would be the most coveted job after the season.
They'll let that guy stay. I heard today that they were very worried about screwing up Caleb Williams, so that he likes this guy Brown so much that they may let him stay as the head coach. What a disaster that'll turn into.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We got the NBA Cup going on. Not that anybody really cares per se about the NBA Cup. Now, I got to be honest with you. I actually did try to look of like, okay, like what does it mean like for the NBA Cup? Like who's playing for what here? And I lost interest and I gave up after about 30 seconds. And I was like, you know what? Whatever, dude. There's NBA games.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
OU is definitely better than Syracuse. Miami's lost by 4 and by 5. But that offense is so good.
Right.
You cannot run away from them.
But the perception is, if we're talking about those two teams, Oklahoma's just this blue blood program, and Syracuse and Georgia Tech are not.
Right.
So that's why we give you a reason then to keep out Miami from the playoff.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards.
That was
thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Kannon and Kaufman hanging out here on SportsGrid. We've got you for, well, a while, honestly. Normally I would say, oh, we got you for another hour and a half or whatever. We're hanging out until these games are over, Brady. So it's going to be a bit, obviously. We're tracking things, Clemson, SMU, Penn State, Oregon, Marshall, Louisiana, and all of these games right now are lopsided. We have Marshall up by 14 at the break, Clemson up by 14, 6 minutes from the break, and with the ball, by the way. And Clemson is in SMU territory. I'll add that as well. And Penn State is trailing by 18 points, as we were just discussing, and that one is midway through the second quarter. Here's my question for you. Which of these games, if any, would you invest in to actually become a game? Because right now, we are headed toward a whole lot of NFL talk if these games don't get more exciting.
I have a feeling SMU is going to show up at some point. Clemson, got out of the gate really quickly with a turnover. Now they've slowed down. This game certainly has the lull that we were talking about, and they have not yet come out of it. I would think the Mustangs would be the team I would lean on to show up and make a game of this one. Now, after all, they were the favorite. And I think I have to respect that. Now, you also have to think about the fact that Clemson was the original favorite, very short, albeit, but when this game opened up, they were about a 1-point favorite. The steam came in on SMU, and they closed as 2.5-point favorites. So I would think they've got a shot to get back in this one. Penn State, by the way, has got the ball fairly deep in Oregon territory. I'm showing the Oregon 22-yard line. So
just as you
say,
touchdown,
there you go. And now I was talking about laying 17.5. Now you're down to 10.5. I feel good about that in game, because even if this goes back and forth at this point to a degree, Adam, I think Oregon still wins this one by margin, at least 2 touchdowns. I think less than 14 points right now is a good play on the Ducks.
Here's what I would want to do, and it's a little risky. You tell me what you think. I would want, and we're 28-17 now, kickoff coming, obviously. Oregon will have the ball, like you said, 10.5. I would be sitting here in game rooting for Oregon to not do anything special on this possession. 3 and out, pick up a first down or 2, just not score, no points. Penn State gets the ball back down 11. At that point in time, I envision the line is below 10. That's when I would be interested in investing.
And that's very smart of you because you're getting under that key number of 10. And right now it's not a great number at 10.5. Okay. You got the hook on top of the 10. So no, I'm with you. Yeah. Let's get Oregon into a little bit of a 3-and-out situation here. Give the ball back to Penn State, get that number down. Who knows? Maybe it goes to 7.5. And then you have another decision. Do you wait? You and I have been through this before. When do you jump? When do you, be patient? Yeah, certainly the first move is getting it under 10.5, and then do you try and take it a little further and get it below 7.5? I don't know if you're ever going to see below 7.5, but I think there's a good chance that this could get under 10.5. Yeah,
we're moving the goalpost because it's like, all right, well, and I'm projecting this thing ahead. Nothing's happened yet. Oregon doesn't even have the ball yet. But it's like, all right, well, Oregon hasn't scored, so now they're punting. All right, now do we wait and see if Penn State scores? And we potentially bring the number, inside a 6 or it's 5.5, whatever the number is, or do they not score? And then does the line, balloon back a little bit because Oregon's getting the ball back and we back to 10.5 and we're outside of that. So you're playing chess with the book, basically. You know what? It's not even the book. You're playing chess with the game and what ends up happening in the game and trying to decide what the favorable situation is. So it makes you wonder too, will we get a lull in this game somewhere between now and the half in the last 6:45 of the second quarter? I mean, the game so far would indicate the answer is no. That's why we're looking at a live total that's basically 80 points. But these are the things that you play with in terms of the risks.
And I'd play under that as well. I don't know if Penn State has the offense to keep up in a shootout. And we talked about this earlier. This is not the Oregon type of offense that we're used to, where they can put 50, 60 points on the board. But it looks like they might tonight. And that's surprising against a pretty darn good defense in Penn State. But Penn State has never, in the history of this program, as far as I can remember, maybe back in the day when they had Franco Harris and Lydell Mitchell in the backfield, it was a prolific offense. But they have never been that team that, lights up a scoreboard, whereas Oregon has that reputation. So, I would probably go, 79.5. Is the total really going to get to 80? I would have to play under that.
I was going to say, Bo Nix probably sitting at home in his couch saying, I can take us to 50, 60 points, Oregon. Then again, he's probably in the stadium. Broncos have a bye week. He might be in Indy.
He also said that the Bears head coaching opening would be the most coveted job after the season.
They'll let that guy stay. I heard today that they were very worried about screwing up Caleb Williams, so that he likes this guy Brown so much that they may let him stay as the head coach. What a disaster that'll turn into.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
We got the NBA Cup going on. Not that anybody really cares per se about the NBA Cup. Now, I got to be honest with you. I actually did try to look what does it mean for the NBA Cup? Like who's playing for what here? And I lost interest and I gave up after about 30 seconds. And I was like, you know what? Whatever, dude. There's NBA games.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
OU is definitely better than Syracuse. Miami's lost by 4 and by 5. But that offense is so good.
Right.
You cannot run away from them.
But the perception is, if we're talking about those two teams, Oklahoma's just this blue blood program, and Syracuse and Georgia Tech are not.
Right.
So that's why we give you a reason then to keep out Miami from the playoff.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards.
That was
thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We are back here on In-Game Live College Football Game Day. Keep telling you, yeah, we're going to talk some NFL. We're going to talk some NFL, and we will. We haven't even mentioned any of the teams yet, other than one, the Broncos, before, talking about Bo Nix. Broncos don't even play this weekend. That's how far removed we are from all things NFL right now, because it is Championship Saturday in the world of college football, and some good games, increasingly good games. Let's put it that way. SMU is down 24-7. Just had a nice run, though, out beyond midfield and or approaching midfield, I should say. SMU at the 45 of its own side. And so down 17, but looking to get on the board, maybe make this a game before the break. 5 minutes till the half. Marshall, Louisiana, that is a 14-point game. Louisiana is trailing. They are still at the break. And Penn State, all right, this is where the strategy comes in again. Penn State has the ball, has moved to the Oregon 48, 3rd and 9, so still obviously outside of field goal range. Can they, Nittany Lions get a first down? We'll see. 28-17, though. Oregon is leading this one. And here you go, Brady. Now it's 6.5. Now you can invest in Oregon to win this thing at minus 6.5. I want to know what you would do. I want to know what Doug Kezirian would do. He joins us here from onlyplayers.com. Make sure you check him out. Check out the site. Check out the app. And check him out on Twitter at Doug Kezirian. Doug, welcome. How's your Saturday going?
It's going well. I was chuckling to myself when you said that we haven't talked NFL at all. Hey, don't poke the bear. Don't give them any ideas. They'll probably schedule some games for tonight next year to try to take away the spotlight like they're doing for the college football playoff and things like that. They don't want the NBA to have Christmas Day. They don't want any days to belong to any other sport. So be careful. Don't poke the bear, like I said.
You are right. That's true. What was your investment, if you had one, in this Penn State-Oregon game? And I'm curious, like I said, what you would do with it now.
So I really respect sharp money. I don't get on my knees and preach and bow down, but you have to respect it. Those are the guys that over time sustain success, and those are the guys I've talked to. And they were all on Penn State plus 3.5. So I thought about getting in at Oregon because I liked Oregon all week. I played a little money line earlier in the week, but I just said, I got enough. Let's just see how this plays, because I think I wanted to live bet, and just if the speed difference jumps off the screen like I think it can, then I'm okay sort of getting in late, so to speak. So I like that you guys are talking about in-game wagering and thing. I would just caution, this isn't, your older brother's Oregon team. This is Dan Lanning, Georgia pedigree. More than happy to take the air out of the ball in the second half and just get the win. I mean, they have all the leverage, right? They're the only undefeated team. They don't need to win by margin. They just want to get in, get out. And they've done just enough all year, which is why I liked Oregon coming into the game, because they played possum early part of the season, struggled with Idaho, and then the Boise game, obviously. And then all of a sudden, Ohio State comes to town and they unleash fury with a bunch of offense. So they've done just enough most of the season. Like the Wisconsin game at Camp Randall got a little hairy, but outside of that, this team's done just enough. So if they have a lead, this is not a Chip Kelly Ducks team that's going to try to get style points and win over voters in the BCS era and steal votes away from the SEC. This is a team that knows who they are, know what they have, their resume's fine, and frankly, they want to put less on tape for the opponent. So I'd be careful laying too much lumber, but you also don't, Lanning knows he doesn't want to play with his food. He's got to be up by 2 scores before he starts thinking like that.
Yeah, I think you make a lot of great points there, Doug, that we have been talking about on the show. This is not your father's Oregon that we remember from the days of Chip Kelly, and they're putting 65 points on the board. And, rarely do we see the defense on the field, and it's just all the electricity from the offensive side. But it also feels like a couple times in this game where they have that capability, where they can get there. You've now got another decision to make. Now, Adam and I were talking when the in-game number was 17.5. Then it's 10.5. Then it's under 7.5, under a key number there. Now you've got another key number. It's 4.5. Are you going to wait until it's under 3? I mean, pretty soon, you have to pull the trigger. Or I think better a practice in game wagering is set that number for yourself. Where's the number have to be before you get involved? I think at this point, I would get involved at less than a touchdown. We've seen how this game has been playing out in the first half. both teams are kind of having their way, but I feel like Oregon has the advantage slightly enough where I kind of think in the end they can win this game by 6, 7, 8 points. I think under a touchdown on the Ducks is where I'd want to go in game.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I was more speaking to if the game started to get away, defenses get soft, things allow underneath, unless you're in the Miami of Ohio game like I was earlier today, then teams can't come back at all, apparently. But typically teams get faced soft defenses, the underneath stuff is allowed. But in this scenario, I do agree with you in that regard. I think there's an attractive component to that because of just the way the game flows. The Ducks just have too much speed in my eyes. I don't think Penn State, and frankly, Franklin's a little vanilla. Like, he's going to punt around midfield. He likes to stay attached. So I don't see them all of a sudden flipping the script and opening the playbook and you know, like I used to say Iowa, and when Ferentz's son was the OC, like they would set up the play action in the first quarter. They would do a bunch of stretch handoffs, sort of lull the linebackers and safeties to sleep to set up the long passes. So they were a terrible first quarter team, and they'd be great live betting because it was part of their game script to throw deep, but you have to set up the linebackers and everything. And they love the narrative of punting and all that. That's not the case with James Franklin. He's trying to hang around, and they're expending all their energy. So I think the Ducks are a couple plays away from, you know, extending this to double digits. So I want no part of the Penn State plus the points if it's less than a touchdown.
Can I get cute? Let me get cute. I've been known to get greedy when it comes to these things a little bit. Let's look for an opportunity. Tell me how you guys feel about it. So Penn State is sitting first and goal at the Oregon 7 there at the 2-minute timeout. So you even have a moment to think about it. Maybe there are points coming. Maybe it's 3 to make it a 1-possession game. Maybe it's a touchdown to make it a 4-point game. Maybe somehow they'll turn it over and then you lose out on what I'm about to present you, but I am curious. Let's say you're not comfortable with laying a certain number, but you just think to yourself, this can't possibly keep up. How about Oregon money line under 81.5 points? You parlay those two together on FanDuel, I'm looking at plus 156, Doug.
So 81.5 is what you should be focusing on, right? So like 35, so you're looking at 36.5 the rest of the way. I'm okay with that because we talked about, you know, a tendency to take the air out of the ball. So I'm more than okay with that.
Doug, I wonder
Brady?
if you had any involvement prior to kickoff in the ACC championship. Right now, it's been primarily Clemson, controlling this game. They got out of the gate early, forced a turnover. Next thing you know, it was 14-0. I thought SMU would start to climb their way back into this contest, but really, they have the time of the possession has to be largely in favor of Clemson. Every time I look up, they've got the ball again, 24-7 right now. In game, they're laying 11.5. Did you do anything prior to kickoff, and would you get involved at this point?
Yeah, I'm only under 56.5 in some contests, 57.5, I believe. And then I have team total Clemson under 26.5, which doesn't look so good. The SMU, the stage has been too big for the Mustangs. You know, Jennings had that silly interception, had the strip sack, receivers dropping balls. So it hasn't been something going in their favor.
We'll see what ends up happening. I'm curious what Penn State winds up doing here. Again, nothing has changed. They're still at the timeout. But again, first and goal, Oregon 7. I'm curious what the outcome of this drive does to the total as well. I mean, obviously the books are already banking on there being a touchdown, which is why we're sitting at 81.5. If it's a field goal instead, if they wind up having to settle, how much does that drop it? Does it take us down to, let's say, 78.5, something like that? I think points are coming. I don't think they're going to turn it over. Although, I mean, stranger things have happened, obviously. But still, they're at the 7-yard line in a game that has produced nothing but offense all the way through. So we'll monitor this one. We are going to break. Doug's going to hang out with us here for a little bit. We have these 3 college football games to keep an eye on. And obviously, we also have plenty of NFL to look at. All right, so here you go. I've got clarity. Touchdown, Penn State. Extra point we're waiting on. But the total's gone up. Now we're at 83.5. That parlay I mentioned, plus 157 with an even better total. Think about it. Think about it during the break, folks.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Kannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We got the NBA Cup going on. Not that anybody really cares per se about the NBA Cup. Now, I got to be honest with you. I actually did try to look of like, okay, like what does it mean like for the NBA Cup? Like who's playing for what here? And I lost interest and I gave up after about 30 seconds. And I was like, you know what? Whatever, dude. There's NBA games.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
We have Doug Kezirian here with us from Only Players. Check out, of course, Doug on Twitter at Doug Kezirian. Check out onlyplayers.com. We're keeping an eye on these three college football games here on Championship Saturday. Brady's beloved Marshall Thundering Herd here, up by 2 touchdowns, 17-3 at Louisiana. That game early third quarter. Clemson SMU is nearing the half, only about less than 90 seconds to go, but SMU just trying to get some points before the break, down 24-7. They are into Clemson territory. And Oregon back with the ball now after allowing a touchdown. We were talking about a little while ago, would you lay 17.5 with Oregon? Well, now it's 3.5. 3.5. Would you lay the number, folks? Just something to consider. Or do that parlay that I did just invest in during the break at north of plus 160, unless you have a boost available to you that you didn't use specific to that game. Pre-game, you can take that thing up over 2-1. Again, Oregon money line and the under 83.5 if you believe the scoring is going to slow down in half number 2, which honestly, as I do the math and the fact that we already have 52 points in this game, I have placed the bet and I'm already petrified. So welcome to betting, right? Welcome to the sweat. Let's talk some NFL, guys. As we know, it's a little bit of a, just in terms of volume, a watered-down weekend. You got 6 teams that are on bye. Patriots, Ravens, Broncos, Texans, Colts, Commanders, all off this weekend. We had a thriller Thursday night, more than lived up to the hype to start off the week. That was a ton of fun in what ultimately was a Lions win. And why would you ever bet against Detroit, obviously? But now we have, I'm looking at these games, there is only one, and tell me if you disagree, I only see one game that is truly meaningless, and that is the Jaguars and the Titans. Everything else, there's at least something interesting, something compelling. And, many of them, I mean, let's get into one of the more interesting ones. How about this? The NFC West is crowded. It's not very good, but therefore it's wide open. You have the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Seattle is first, Doug, in that division, one game in front of both Arizona, the opposition, and Los Angeles, who, oh, by the way, is a home game against Buffalo in a game that is meaningful for both of them because, as we know, Rams, like I just said, a game back. But then the Bills, while they comfortably lead the AFC East, are one game back of Kansas City in the AFC overall, and would love themselves a first-round bye, and as we know, take the tiebreaker against the Chiefs because they already beat them head-to-head. So this Seahawks and Cardinals game, I'll give you just some of the details going in. Kenneth Walker, by the way, today ruled out, so that is a missing piece there for the Seahawks. Not that he ran well against the Cardinals the last time they saw them, so that's going to be a problem in this game, all the more so on that side of the ball. The Cardinals, opened as 1-point favorites. They're sitting as 2.5, 3-point favorites, depending on where you look right now. The total in this game is a consistent 44.5, regardless of where you do your shopping. What's the outlook?
So I like the home team here. And I know sharp money came in at -2.5. 3 is such a key number, as we all know, and that definitely makes things a little different. But I still like it. The NFL is really tough to handicap because people get so jaded by what they last saw. But unless you're the Detroit Lions, it's really hard to just keep winning week in and week out. And when you have a gas tank that, in theory, uses up fuel, right? So just think about the consecutive weeks that this Seattle team has gone through. And I think Arizona's the right side here. You had the Geno Smith late drive against the Niners. Okay. That was huge win, the comeback. Then you go to Arizona. Sorry, you're at home against Arizona, and they come into your house and they beat you. But that was an intense game for first place in the division, 16-6, playoff vibe. And then next week, Geno goes to New York, back at facing his old team, the Jets, who didn't write back. And so at some point, there's just going to be a drained team. And I think that's what we're going to have here. And you can get Arizona, blew the game last week, but they're at home. And it's not Arrowhead, it's not Orchard Park, but that stadium's a tough place to play. There's a distinct home field advantage there. So I'd lay it with Arizona before anything. But I do find it interesting that a couple weeks ago, these two teams played. It was 47.5, and now it's 44.5. I lean under, but clearly there was value the last time they played.
Yeah, I agree with you, Doug.
The final in the first one.
Yeah. Interesting. I agree with you on the Cardinals side, and I also agree with you that stadium there in Glendale does have a sneaky home field advantage that you may or may not be aware of. But I think you're spot on there. Let's talk about the other game in the NFC West that Adam tipped there about the Rams and the Bills. I think this is a very interesting contest. I think early in the week, you talk about sharp money, Doug. I think we saw a lot of sharp money leaning towards the Rams side here because, like Adam talked about as well, Buffalo has clinched that division, possibly a letdown here going on the road. They've got Detroit next week, a look-ahead spot possibly there, possibly a preview of a Super Bowl matchup. And the Rams are a feisty bunch, man. Well coached. This team seems to be competitive and continues to win ball games. But I couldn't get there myself because my numbers are heavily in favor of Buffalo, and I think we all understand that. The situation is in favor of LA, but the stats are in favor of Buffalo. Do you do anything with it, or is it a pass?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I understand the sharp money that's coming on the Rams, but they've been really disappointing in big games like this. They've let teams down. They beat up, bad teams, so to speak. Like that was a big win in New England that they had by their standards because they got smoked at home against the Eagles, I believe, the previous week. But for the most part, this is a team that'll let good teams score on them. So, like you said, the numbers favor Allen and the Bills. But man, I mean, you're doing snow angels a week ago. You're celebrating a division title. All this stuff. It's really hard to go lay points on the road. It's a recipe for disaster, not success. So you just got to know when to not put your hand on the stove. So I'm definitely not laying it with Buffalo, but I'm also not running to grab the points with the dog. One of my, strengths or whatever is just avoiding some of those trendy, even if it's sharp money plays. And I think Buffalo is one of those plays. I'm even torn in a pick'em league what to do. So I'm definitely not stepping up to the counter and firing.
Rams, we like to talk about good coaching matters late in the season, right? Sean McVay and the Rams, 12-2 against the spread in their last 14 December games, which does include 8 straight home covers. Just something to think about. But again, if you want to disregard trends, you can do that. Here's one you'll disregard based on what you said about the Seahawks and Cardinals. Seattle 9-1-1, straight up last 11 trips to Arizona. Is Pete Carroll coming back? Because those were all under Pete.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Kannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
We got the NBA Cup going on. Not that anybody really cares per se about the NBA Cup. Now, I got to be honest with you. I actually did try to look of like, okay, like what does it mean like for the NBA Cup? Like who's playing for what here? And I lost interest and I gave up after about 30 seconds. So I was like, you know what? Whatever, dude. There's NBA games.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
In-game live, college football game day. Clemson, SMU at the break. SMU did not get those points before the half, so 24-7, Clemson is leading. This game is really opened up, obviously, for the Tigers. Oregon, 4th and 5 at the Penn State 14 with about 10 seconds to go in the first half. You would think a field goal on the way. We'll keep you posted, but it is 28-24 as things stand right now. Oregon leading Penn State. We're talking a little NFL, mixing in some National Football League with Doug Kezirian here from Only Players, and the Oregon field goal is good, so it'll be 31-24 going into the half, barring, a kick return for a touchdown here. So we'll let you know, but 55 total points in that game if you're like me, chasing an under 83.5 at this point in time. Let's talk a little bit about the Chargers and Chiefs. Sunday Night Football. Interesting game, obviously. Another one that does have importance. Maybe not as much as some of these other games where teams are, fighting for their playoff lives. Both these teams expect to go to the playoffs, but Kansas City, a game ahead of Buffalo for the AFC lead. We're just talking about the Bills, so not a game that I would think they'd be taking lightly. Plus, it is a divisional contest. Harbaugh's no slouch on the other side, and Los Angeles 5th in the AFC in what is a very crowded, collection of 8-win teams that are right there in the middle of that conference right now. And so, Herbert is going to try and exploit a defense that has struggled recently against the likes of Bryce Young and Aiden O'Connell, Doug. Meanwhile, there's no J.K. Dobbins. He's on IR, so it's Gus Edwards, Gus Bus, that will be out there. Probably don't have to worry too much about him. And then the whole thing with the Chiefs that everyone nationally is debating. Are they good? Are they great? Are they just lucky? When did they flip the switch, turn it on, and become the team that has won 2 consecutive titles? What do you expect here from this contest?
So they are a good team. Are they 11-1 good? No. I mean, they've obviously escaped with wins, but some of those, like the one they bring up is like the game, the season opener. It's like, well, they were up 10 and all they needed was one first down to take us some knees. That was a bizarre game. But either way, they've obviously escaped in recent weeks. I just think this line's a little short. I mean, they faced each other in LA about a month or so ago, a month and a half, and Chiefs were -7 at the Chargers. Now, Herbert was banged up, but he played, and they pushed. They won by exactly 7. I do think I was on the Chiefs last week on Black Friday, and they're up 13, 16-3, and couldn't convert in the red zone. So when you look at those red zone sort of possessions and things like that, it comes down to third down. Mahomes just lacks sort of chemistry with his wide receivers. We've seen it happen so many times in the playoffs, but this is kind of who they are at this point, right? That run through the playoffs last year, didn't have the greatest offense against the Ravens. There was the fumble on the goal line that the defense caused, and then Baltimore didn't run the ball at all. So it was a really bizarre game. And then the Niners had about 5 plays they could have won the game and didn't execute, and then the muff punt completely turned the game over in the second half, right? The Chiefs otherwise wouldn't have scored a single point in the second half, and then obviously got points in overtime. So this team is limited. I lean KC because I think the number's short, and the Chargers are not as potent as they've looked most of the year, especially that defense, really capitalizing on facing bad quarterbacks to start the year. But now we've seen that defense face some elite quarterbacks, and they've given up a lot of points. I was impressed last week with the win in Atlanta, but they also had Kirk Cousins gift wrap some turnovers. So it's just merely a lean for me on the Chiefs, but the number feels short. Like if they had played, I don't know, a month and a half ago, it'd be 7.5 or so.
Doug, I wonder where you stand on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the Las Vegas Raiders. Tampa had a scare last week with the Panthers. The Raiders, can you come any closer to winning a ball game without winning it? I wonder how Las Vegas can rebound as a 6.5 or 7-point dog at Tampa.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy how it's not even like the most ridiculous ending for KC, but it is a pretty ridiculous ending in and of itself. I like Tampa. So last year, not this year, it was my biggest bet in terms of win totals, because the year before that, which was Brady's last year, they had the same win total as the Chiefs. And yes, you lose Brady, but you can't go down 5 wins, right? It was just crazy. So they have a lot of talent on the roster. They have a defensive-minded coach. There's a lot of things to like, but they've been beat up a little bit, especially at those wide receiver positions. And I like the Raiders here with O'Connell back at quarterback. The team seems to respond. And I don't think Antonio Pierce is a good coach by any means in terms of strategy, but he does seem to push the right buttons. And, earlier this year, he called out his players for being soft. Guys like Bill Belichick said, you can't say that. I was like, absolutely you can. He has the cachet, being a recent player and a recent Super Bowl champ, to be able to do that. So I think he pushes the right buttons. This Tampa team plays with fire, as we saw last week. So I'm on the Raiders here. I would like 7, though.
Doug Kezirian is on Twitter at Doug Kezirian. Of course, onlyplayers.com. Make sure you check it out. Doug, thanks so much for hopping on with us, man.
Thanks, fellas. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.